Did you know the invention that makes your dental visits painless actually killed its creator in the most tragic way possible? Dr. Horace Wells discovered nitrous oxide anesthesia in the 1840s, revolutionizing surgery forever. Before his breakthrough, patients had to endure excruciating pain during operations. Wells changed everything with laughing gas. But here's where it gets dark. To perfect his invention, Wells experimented on himself constantly, testing different doses and effects. What started as scientific research became a deadly addiction. The nitrous oxide slowly destroyed his mind over several years. In 1848, while high on his own creation, Wells lost control completely. He attacked innocent strangers with acid in a violent rage, leading to his immediate arrest. Sitting in that jail cell, overwhelmed by shame and still addicted to the gas that made him famous, Wells made a final decision. He used chloroform and a razor to end his life. The medical establishment quickly covered up his death, protecting the reputation of anesthesia. Today, millions benefit from pain-free procedures, never knowing their comfort came at the ultimate cost to its inventor. Did you know the man who invented glow-in-the-dark paint literally glowed as he died? In the 1920s, Sabin Arnold von Sochocki was a hero. His radium paint lit up watch faces, instrument panels, and everyday household items. People could finally read time in complete darkness. But von Sochocki had a deadly habit. He licked his paintbrushes to get sharp points for detailed work. He carried glowing vials of radium in his pockets like they were harmless toys. Every single day he handled this mysterious glowing substance with his bare hands. By the mid-20s, something terrifying started happening. His jaw began rotting away. His blood count dropped to dangerous levels. The radium was eating him alive from the inside. In 1928, von Sochocki died from radiation poisoning. As he lay dying, his body actually glowed in the dark from all the radium he had absorbed over the years. The man who brought light to darkness was killed by his own brilliant invention. And the radium industry? They covered up worker deaths for years, hiding the deadly truth behind their glowing success. Did you know the man who built the first modern lighthouse was killed by his own invention? Henry Winstanley created something amazing in the early 1700s. He designed the first Eddystone lighthouse off England's coast, using wood and fancy decorations that made it look like a work of art. This lighthouse became the template that would save millions of sailors worldwide. But here's where it gets crazy. Winstanley was so proud of his creation that he publicly bragged he wanted to be inside it during the worst storm ever. Well, he got his wish. On November 27, 1703, while doing repairs, the Great Storm hit. This was one of the most violent storms in English history. Massive waves crashed against the lighthouse with Winstanley trapped inside. By morning, both the lighthouse and its creator had completely vanished. No trace was ever found. The tragic irony? His lighthouse failure led to better designs that actually did save countless lives. Sometimes the greatest pioneers pay the ultimate price for progress. Did you know the man who invented the rubber in your car tires died from the very process he created? Charles Goodyear changed everything when he discovered vulcanized rubber in the 1800s. Before him, rubber was useless. It melted in summer and cracked in winter. But Goodyear was obsessed with finding the perfect formula. For decades, he mixed rubber with sulfur and dangerous lead compounds in his tiny laboratory. He barely left his workspace, often sleeping right there among the toxic fumes. Day after day, he breathed in poisonous chemicals that slowly destroyed his body. His breakthrough came by accident when he dropped rubber mixed with sulfur onto a hot stove. The heat created strong, flexible rubber that could handle any temperature. This discovery became the foundation for car tires, shoe soles, and thousands of products we use today. But the cost was his life. The toxic fumes and lead exposure gradually poisoned him. In 1860, Goodyear died from the very chemicals that made his invention possible. Today, millions safely use his rubber products, never knowing their creator paid the ultimate price for this revolutionary discovery. Did you know the man who designed the Titanic's revolutionary safety features died because of a tiny flaw in his own creation? Thomas Andrews was a genius. As chief naval architect, he invented watertight bulkheads and advanced hull designs that made ocean travel safe for millions of people. His innovations became standard on every ship built after the Titanic. Andrews was so dedicated that he sailed on the Titanic's maiden voyage to personally check every detail. But on April 14, 1912, disaster struck. When the ship hit the iceberg, Andrews immediately knew what others didn't. His own design had a fatal flaw. The watertight bulkheads he'd created didn't extend high enough. Water would spill from one compartment to the next until the unsinkable ship went down. Andrews calculated they had less than 2 hours. Passengers found him in the smoking room, staring at a painting. He'd removed his life jacket and accepted his fate. The safety-obsessed inventor who'd saved countless lives on other ships died from his own engineering miscalculation. His sacrifice led to better maritime safety laws that still protect us today. Did you know the man who made newspapers possible died from his own invention and barely anyone wrote about it? William Bullock changed everything in 1865. His rotary printing press could pump out thousands of newspapers in the time it used to take to make dozens. Suddenly, daily news became cheap and fast. Everyone could afford to stay informed. But Bullock's amazing machine had a deadly flaw. In 1867, during a routine check, a piece of the press got stuck. Back then, workers would just kick jammed parts back into place. No big deal, right? Bullock did exactly that. His foot got caught in the spinning machinery. The gears crushed his leg instantly. Doctors in the 1860s didn't know much about infection. What started as a bad injury turned into gangrene. The infection spread through his body. Within days, the father of modern newspapers was dead. Here's the twisted part. The newspapers that his invention made possible barely covered his death. The man who gave the world instant information became a forgotten footnote in history. Did you know the man who created the first combat submarine died testing his own invention? Horace Lawson Hunley built something that would change naval warfare forever, but it cost him everything. During the Civil War, Hunley designed the H.L. Hunley, a hand-cranked submarine operated by 8 men. The plan was simple: sneak underwater, attach explosives to enemy ships, and escape undetected. But this revolutionary machine had a deadly problem. The submarine sank twice during testing, killing both crews. Most inventors would have given up, but not Hunley. He believed so strongly in his creation that he decided to personally command the third test mission to prove it was safe. On October 15, 1863, Hunley and his entire crew climbed into the metal coffin for what should have been a routine dive. They never surfaced. The submarine sank again, likely from a ballast tank malfunction, taking its creator with it. Hunley's sacrifice wasn't in vain. His design became the blueprint for modern submarines used in military operations, deep-sea research, and even underwater tourism. Sometimes the greatest innovations demand the ultimate price. Did you know the man who brought light to millions of homes died in complete darkness? Karl Auer von Welsbach was a genius inventor who changed how we see the world. He created the gas mantle, a simple device that made bright light possible in every home. Before his invention, people lived in dim, flickering light. His work with rare earth elements also led to lighter fluid and early light bulbs that lit up entire cities. But Karl worked with extremely dangerous chemicals every day. These flammable compounds were the key to his success, but also his downfall. In 1898, while mixing new chemical combinations in his lab, something went terribly wrong. The reaction exploded, and his entire workspace burst into flames. Karl was trapped inside, surrounded by the very chemicals he had spent years perfecting. He died from severe burns, killed by the same flammable materials that had made him famous. Today, his gas mantles still light camping lanterns and emergency equipment worldwide. Millions benefit from his brilliant mind, yet few know his tragic story. Did you know the same technology that powers millions of homes today killed the man who helped perfect it? Louis Slotin was a brilliant physicist working on the Manhattan Project during World War II. He spent years developing nuclear fission techniques that would later become the foundation for nuclear power plants around the world. But on May 21, 1946, that same technology turned deadly. Slotin was demonstrating a plutonium experiment to his colleagues at Los Alamos using what scientists called the demon core. While using a screwdriver to carefully position the radioactive material, his hand slipped. The plutonium went critical for less than a second, flooding Slotin's body with lethal radiation. He died 9 days later as the radiation literally cooked him from the inside out. The tragic irony? The nuclear fission process he helped create now safely generates clean electricity for millions of people every day. Yet the very same plutonium core that killed Slotin had already claimed another scientist's life just months before in a separate accident. Did you know the man who made blood transfusions safe was killed by his own invention? Alexander Bogdanov was a Russian doctor who basically invented modern blood banks in the 1920s. He figured out how to safely store blood and match blood types, creating the system every hospital uses today. His work saves millions of lives every single day. But Bogdanov had an obsession. He believed blood transfusions could make him younger and stronger, so he performed dozens of experiments on himself, constantly swapping blood with volunteers. On April 7, 1928, Bogdanov decided to exchange blood with a young student. What he didn't know was that this student had both malaria and tuberculosis. Within days of the transfusion, Bogdanov's body began shutting down. The infected blood triggered multiple organ failure, and the father of blood transfusion died from the very procedure he had perfected. The tragic irony? Bogdanov had created all the safety protocols needed to prevent exactly this kind of disaster. His own overconfidence in his invention became his downfall, proving that even the greatest medical breakthroughs can turn deadly in the wrong hands.